Alright, so let's see if we can't get this video knocked out of the park right now. So I'm going to go ahead and pull up the article on this one that I'm about to do. It's a backup script for ESXI that I found online, and it is rather simple to set up once you go through the setup instructions and really get down to it. I made an archive of the VMware page for the backup script, and that way, in case if it changes down the road and I don't like the change, I still have an archive of the original document. So I'm going to bring that over here now. That's why it shows an internal address for the VMware page here. But just overview of it. If you want to read something here, you can pause the video or have a look. So basically all it does is just go through and make a backup of all your VMs. It can shut down the VMs before it makes a backup, or it doesn't have to, and it can just make a snapshot of your VMs. It's flexible. It's very flexible. It asks you where do you want to put the backups, what data store. If you want to do it over NFS, you can do it over NFS. If you want to email a log file, you can do all that good stuff. Pre-configs here, they're very simple. Everything is very simple. I love this. VM backup volume destination, so you can select a volume to where you want it to back up. You can back up in thin, eager 0, lazy 0, whatever. I forget I guess they're called eager or lazy 0. I always use thin partitions. I never deal with the other ones. No need to. Everything is fast enough these days to do thin partitioning, and you're good to go. So without going too much further over this, if you want to get right to that page, you can just search this header here in Google, and you'll be able to find it. So we're going to go ahead and get into this vcb.sh here file, and just tear it apart a little bit. Not so much tear it apart, but let's just configure it and make it work. So you can download it once you find this page. You can give it a download. It's a little bit hard to spot. Here it is, right here. So you just click this GitHub link. I don't know why I say grit, but a GitHub link here, and you can just clone or download the entire file system here, and file structure, not system. And really, the only one that you really need to deal with is the sh file, which is not that one. Here it is, right here. So this is the one I'm primarily going to be touching on and working with. I don't really need a restore, because if I need to restore it, I'll just do it manually or boot from the backup one and copy it over using VMware Converter, which is free, by the way, through VMware, and that is this one. VMware Converter standalone. You can make a backup of a VM directly to your desktop machine, your Windows box, and then archive it on an external hard drive, take it with you wherever, whatever you want to do. You can make a copy from a VM, from an ESXi box to another ESX box. You can copy from the same box to another box, or to the same box, and rename the VM if you need to. Simple stuff here, very easy. But this script here, we're just going to use it purely for backup. And it says 5.x, but in the notes, when you get to GitHub, it says that it will work for 6.0 and up. So that is good news, considering I have 6.5. So we're just gonna make this work and get to it. So in the video description, and if you know me personally on TeamSpeak, I will be giving you a link for the download of this ESXi Debian box. Basically all I've done is went out and downloaded Debian 8.6.0, I think it is the newest version, and I'll verify that while I'm talking, and just basically built it to the lowest amount of installed extras that it needs to just basically run 8.6.0 i386, so x86. Very minimal operating system. Very clean. I'm trying to catch my breath and talk really fast all at the same time. It's northern in me. So with that being said, all that's installed on this Debian box, besides the basic system environments, I actually unticked the install system, whatever it is, during the install. It's like extra system utilities. I unticked that during the installation, so those are not included. So the only thing that I have installed is Nano, SSH client, SSH server, and there's one other here, SSH pass, I think it is, and OpenVM tools. Now, the reason why I did OpenVM tools instead of the full VMware tools is because if you are running 5.5 or 5.0, your VM tools may differ from mine. Probably will. Just to keep it simple and sweet, I did OpenVMware tools, which is perfectly fine. It works and functions just fine. So let's go ahead and talk about how you would install this file to your your ESXi box when you download it from the site. It's an OVA template, and we're going to install it using a deploy OVF template, and you'll just select it, which I've already have it selected here, and you'll hit next. It'll give you some little bits of information. You'll hit next. You can give it a name or just keep my default naming, whatever describes it for you. Of course, there's already a name of it, so I had to put a 1 here. Select the destination of it, which is just root. Select the destination drive. Now, I would say put this on the drive that you trust the most, and don't put it on the drive that you're backing up from or backing up to, because you don't want those two to fail during a backup process and cripple your operating system. I mean, you could. It would just be less load on that drive, and if it did fail, you would have a way to back it up again without needing to set up the backup scripts and all that mess. So you would just hit next on this bit and thin provision this disk. The disk size on the Debian box is 3 gigs actually. The download just clocks in just under 700 megs, and that's awesome. That is the full installation of Debian, not the full installation, but base properties that we need to work in. All of the files are already pre-set up in there that we need to get this working. So you would just hit next at this point, and it would verify with you, and then it would give you this handy dandy little VM here, which you can edit the settings. There's really nothing under here to edit at all. You can probably change this to 512, and it would just be as happy as it can be. I'm not going to redeploy this because I already have, and this is what you would get when you download it and start it up for the first time. So we're going to go ahead and start it. The only other thing you may want to change is the network adapter that it's living on, because mine's set up as VM network, which is default ESXi, and I really don't care to change it. So if you're using a static environment, you're going to have to go through the typical Debian way of setting up a static IP on the Debian box itself, because it is set up as DHCP out of the box. So let's go ahead and press play on this, and my good old glitch is going to happen here to where I have to click off and click back, and it shows that it is running now. And once you get here, the username is just root. There is no regular user on this box. I have removed it, so it's only root here. And the password is setme. Now I can't tell if my caps lock is on because it gets rid of the light on this keyboard. Just setme, and of course it is capitalized probably. Yep. So let's root set me, all lowercase. So this would be right there. That's what the password would be. Very simple, straightforward. You can change it. You know how to change passwords in Debian, I hope. If not, it's just PASSWD root, and then press enter, and then it'll ask you for whatever password you want. Straightforward. Okay, so at this point, I'm going to go ahead and assume that you already have an IP address for the box, so you can check that within ESXi, and just make sure that it does have an address assigned. 71 is what it gets from DHCP from pfSense here. So we're pretty much ready to rock. The only thing you're going to need to know is your ESXi username and password, your ESXi's IP address, either a public-facing one, not a public-facing one, but either one that's generally used or one that's only used for data center communications, or a local one that you use, like a 10 gig internal network IP address that you can assign to this box. And So where I've put the backup script is inside of the home folder. So if we do a cd/home/ and press tab, you'll get script. Now, if you don't believe me, LSing in this directory, you only get script. That is not a username. That is just an mkdir file that I put in there. I just made a directory. So we're going to cd and script ls, and you'll have 3 different things here. The first one is a backup.txt. The second one is a runme.sh file and a folder that says move to ESXI. You guessed it, you have to move those 2 files that are in there to your ESXI box. And we'll get to that here in a moment. First things first, let's nano this runme.sh. If I can type today, that would be helpful. My password is 12345667. Don't judge. I set it to that just so that way I don't have to type out my ridiculously long password for ESXI, and that meets the complexity requirements right there as it is. So we'll change user to the root account of ESXI, and we'll change it to an IP address that I would like to use. If numlock would be on, that would be helpful. And that is my ESXI installation's IP address there. So this -o strict host key checking equals no basically states that whenever you go to log into SSH, it's not going to ask you if you want to add it to the trusted, connections bit, yes or no prompt. So you don't have to worry about any of that. That'll just skip that altogether. The backup.txt, the little arrow facing the IP address, means that the backup.txt lies on a local environment, which is this Debian box, which then will be sent to ESXI. Now, if that arrow is backwards, you would be asking ESXI to input data to the backup.txt. We don't want that. We want ESXI to receive the lines of text that are in that backup.txt file. Don't worry, it's not hard, it's very simple. So we're going to hit Control X and Y to write that data that we just changed, which you can still see there. So I'm going to go ahead and clear that out, and we'll move on to step 2. So step 2 here is to edit the backup.txt. When we're in here, all we have to change really is this drive to use and the folder that you wish to use. Now, I like keeping things very simple because I'm OCD. So backup-script is going to be where you're going to put the script files that you need to move to ESXI. Remember that folder said move to ESXI? This is going to be that folder that you move those 2 pieces into. So if you want to name it something script, like for example, you can just change it right there. You'll see as we go along what I'm talking about. So watch ahead and then kind of catch up on the video. So I'm going to go to my data stores here. I'm going to go to SSD1 because this is the drive that I wish to be using, and you will see that I have a script here, which I'm going to delete these 2 because we're not there yet. And do I have any backed up VMs? Yes, I'm going to delete those as well. Excuse me. So the backup-script file there, sorry about that. We are going to be putting our script files in there and on this SSD, which is the exact same size as the above SSD. So in here, I want to use SSD1 as my backup location, aka script holding location. SSD1. And that's it. That's all you gotta do. Save it, and you're good to roll. Now, remember, if you ever change the name of SSD1 to, like, say, SSD4, if you add more SSDs and change this one out for, like, a terabyte SSD, for example, down the road, or a 4 terabyte SSD, if you got that kind of cache and you're just awesome like that, you would have to change the name there. And you would have to change it one more place, which we will see here in a second. But other than that, you're done. So Control X and Y and enter, which you can't see because I have it off the bottom of my screen. I already know those keys by heart. So you see it says wrote 2 lines. So we're going to clear this bit, and we're going to ls again. So all that leaves us to do now is a chmod for the runme.sh plus x and runme.sh. Now you can change that file name to whatever you want, but you got to change everything else around too. So that's it. We're done with Debian. So we're just going to have to copy, not so much done with Debian, but we're so much done with configuring it for right now. So we're going to close all this, minimize this out of the way, and we're going to open up FileZilla. Inside of FileZilla, we're going to open the IP address of the Debian box. We're going to go to Home, which is scrolling up, of course, Script, and the move to ESXI. Now, ignore this bits over here, because this is what I was testing with. We're going to just drag and drop that straight to the desktop. So now we have it over here, and we need to make a connection to ESXI, which I already have set up here. Okay. And we need to go under that SSD, so VMFS, volumes, and you're selecting the same SSD that we put the, told it where to save or pull from for the script. I had brain fart there for a second. So here's the script, and we're going to want to open this. But before we move these, we want to edit these. So let's open this first one. I'm going to use Notepad++. If you want to copy it over to ESXi and use the VI editor, more power to you. So Notepad++, very simple to change here. Again, we need to change this one. You can optionally change this. You can change that as well if you wish. And this one, I'll explain all the bottom ones here in a moment, except for the memory one. Memory is pretty straightforward, as you can find out on VMware KB if you need. So we're going to change drive to use to SSD1, because that's just the way how I have this pretty much, OCD proof for myself. SSD1 is where I want to store my backup, so the exact same size SSD as the VMs that are running on, the VMs that I'm wanting to back up are running on. So straightforward. So I'm going to save this file now that I made a change, and we're going to move down to here. So this will keep 4 copies of the VMs that you back up. So for example, like if I back up my web server and this script runs 4 times, it will keep 4 copies. If you change it to 3, it only keeps 3 copies. On the 4th run, it deletes the first one and replaces it with the new one. So you'll have an old, new. Moving down, like I said, you can find this on VMware KB if you want to know more about it. Allowing VMs with snapshots to be backed up. This is where this becomes very tricky and may be heartbreak city to some of you. Put my thoughts together. If you have pre-existing snapshots on ESXi of your VMs before this script runs to back them up, it will consolidate all of those. So you will not have your very precious day one, start one snapshot anymore. It consolidates them all down and just takes the snapshot. Now, there is a way around this, but it comes at a cost. And that cost is you have to power down the VM. So if, for example, you don't feel like taking down your web server to make a backup, then you have to sacrifice all your snapshots every time the script runs. So if you don't want to sacrifice your snapshots, you have to allow for the VM to shut down, and that's where all of these above here settings, come in and all this such. So you'll have to read through there. I personally don't care. I just want them backed up, and I'm pretty much, if I'm making critical changes on a box and it comes up to midnight, 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock, whenever I have this set up to run, I'll shut down this VM so they can't run. The backup VM is what I meant. So it can't take a backup, and then when I boot it back up, I'll just run it manually instead of the cron tab or whatever it's called doing the backup for me. So that's it for this script, this page too. Like I said, it's going to be very simple. You have to change only a few things, just this bit here, and whatever SSD or whatever data store or NFS, whatever one you want it to go to, that's where you'll put it. Now, if you want direct connection to NFS, which I have not tested yet, and I probably will not, to tell you the truth, you can go directly to your server, and you can read that in that article that I had pulled up a second ago, if you give it a Google. So as far as that, this page is done, so we'll close this. The only other one that you have to edit, and this one's a little tricky. So this is purely based on what you want to do. If you edit on Windows, I don't know about OS X or Linux at this point. If you edit this file here, it adds that to the end of the names of every one of your VMs. because of the way Notepad works. It adds a hidden to the normal person's eye. Like if I hit the arrow key over, there's really no space there. But if you highlight it, there is a space at the end of those words. You can see it. So ESXI determines that as a space, and it'll throw that, you know, little expression in there. So you have to open it with VI and delete those out, which I'll show you. So right here are VM names that I'm wanting to have backed up every night. Being said, there's a trick, and I didn't realize this until after I started digging into this, and it's really not a heartbreak for me. But it's definitely a pain. When you set up a VM and you go to do an archive of that VM or back it up, whatever you want to call it, the VM name in the tree on the left, so for example TS3, it has to match the folder name that's in your SSD or your data store, wherever you have your VM stored. So for example, TS3 has to match TS3, the exact same uppercasing, exact same spacing, a dash, whatever, it has to match. All the way down to the VMDK name, right here, and the VMX, wherever the VMX is on this, oh there it is right here. So this must be an old VMX file that I was tinkering with at one point. So it has to match, the name has to match this. You can't have, for example, star 60 gig in here at the end of that to signify that it's on the 60 gig drive. You can't do it. It just won't run. The only other options that I've found was like adding notes to ESXI, which I can't ever remember where that is. There's a notes section in ESXI. I think it's the online panel web GUI that'll allow you to do notes. But for now, yeah, there it is, notes. So you can add notes to the VM if you want. If you hit edit, big dummy I am. If you hit edit, you can add a note to the VM, and that would be included along with the snapshot. So cool deals here. That glitches out super hard. So just add the list of VMs that you want to have backed up. Make sure they match all the way through. Name here, name of folder, name of VMDK, and VMX. Make sure it all matches. If you have snapshots that are pre-existing before you run the backup, you'll have like dash or .0.vmdk or some mess like that. However ESXI does their backups, that doesn't matter. It just has to match the root level drive file name. Because the script just deletes them all if you have it set up to do that. So with that being said, we can move these files over and get on with it. So I haven't made any changes to this because I just don't want, this is the only ones that I want backed up, so we'll save that anyways. We'll close this and we'll move these two over to ESXI. Now we're going to put these into the script location. This is what I was talking about earlier. So those go right in there. And now you have to make a connection to ESXI through PuTTY or through terminal or SSH, whatever. You just have to make a connection. The only reason why you have to make a connection to ESXI is just to set this script as executable. And I just typed my password wrong. I put a plus key in there. There we go. And you just have to get to that file system VM. KLS CD SSH or SSD1. Woo. I'm all over the board tonight. LS and then CD backup script. LS again, and we have that file there. So chmod threw me off. I thought we press space or enter there. Plus hex and then not VMs to back up. What am I thinking? G. And that'll set it as executable. Now, like I was saying before, it had spaces, that special little character with an M to the VMs to back up. So we'll do a VI and then VMs to back up. And we'll press I on your keyboard, which will enable editing mode, and you just delete these out of here. It's just a single backspace. That's it, once. Escape key, :WQ, and enter. And that writes the file. Now you're done here. You can exit that safely. Now, in the perfect world, I would have went through and showed you how to set this up to automatically run you at midnight or 12 o'clock, 1 o'clock in the morning, whatever. Which you can do with Quran tab, whatever it's called. Very simply, you just point it to the directory of this runme.sh file, and everything will be fine and dandy. So before I kick this off, we're going to go ahead and open ESXI here and just show you these down here. So this is just a reconfigure of the Plex server. And we're going to go ahead and // and run me.sh and press enter. It'll find all the VMs in there, and it will start the process of creating snapshots and backing them all up. And that one's done super quick. TS3 is not that big, that's why. Okay, so if we go over here to the SSD, we'll have a look. There's the script that we put in. Here's the VMs that it's backing up. So if we have a look at TS, expand this, it does it by date, by time, and seconds as well. So once you open this, you'll be greeted with the VMX and the VMDK and a status-OK. That basically states that everything was okay during the backup. So you can safely delete that if you don't want that in there. I'm not going to be that picky. But yeah, that's working. It's fully working. Backup script, very simple. I got it down pat to where I can pretty much set that up in like under a few minutes if I wasn't talking and blabbing throughout the video. But yeah, so let me know if you need any help. I'm pretty much in TeamSpeak all the time. You can send me an email on my website and ask for help that way too. But all right, have fun backing VMs up.